We're here today at a site in Lamington National Park responding to a recent outbreak detection of 2 nests that were reported into the program. It's located in a very sensitive area inside the national park. Lamington National Park is a World Heritage listed area and Gondwanan rainforest. It's got very high social, cultural and environmental significance. There's a lot of different vegetation type in here, a lot of it is untouched, and it contains a lot of species of high environmental value and threatened species that are of concern. So conducting surveillance on a site like this is the critical first step. We need to know what the extent of the risk is and make sure that we're addressing that risk appropriately. We want to make sure that we're establishing where the infestation is, what the highest risk area is, and that when we do treat, we are treating to that risk. We don't want to be treating into areas that have a very low risk profile, so there is a lot of work that goes on in the background to make sure that we are treating this appropriately. Fire ants generally aren't attracted to densely forested areas. They do prefer open habitats where there's frequent disturbance. So where the nests were found here is in exactly that spot. Another factor that we're considering is the temperatures in this area tend to be a lot lower than in the core of the infestation. So that is going to also play a role in the risk profiling of this situation. The treatment that we'll use on this site is going to be a granular product. Part of what we're doing in the assessment of this environment is deciding which is the most appropriate treatment product to use. We want to maintain the integrity of the environment, so we want to use a product that is going to speak to that risk. One of the important aspects of treatment is the way that it's formulated, and the concentration of the product is particular to ants. The target is ants. The way that it works in an ant colony is the foragers are going out and collecting those granules and they're concentrating that dosage inside of the colony itself. So the risk to non-target invertebrates that are not ants, that don't have those same foraging behaviours, is a lot lower. There's also concern about trophic level impacts. We all know that bigger animals tend to eat smaller animals, so there is concern that if a larger animal ate a smaller animal that had potentially consumed bait granules, that there may be a risk up the food chain. That risk is minimised based on the product formulation and the total amount of product that an animal could consume. So the risk to higher level animals like your vertebrate animals, your mammals, your lizards is very much reduced in this situation. The insect growth regulators that we use are not considered a poison because of the low concentration of active ingredient in the product. They actually pose very, very little risk to mammals, birds and reptiles. The greatest risk is to invertebrates, and that is something we're very focused on assessing as we move forward. Coming back to the threatened and vulnerable species that do exist in the area, we want to make sure that we are using the correct product to minimise risk to those species. In this particular instance, species of concern that have been raised are particular crayfish species. These are quite vulnerable and they are most at risk of adverse effects if we don't interact with this site correctly. The likelihood of them encountering granules is low, particularly because of the habitat that they do live in and the fact that we will be treating in areas where they are not expected to be. If there was an issue where they did encounter some granules, it's unlikely that they would actually consume a dose that was going to be effective to them. The way that we are approaching this is very much with their conservation in mind. We are working very closely with Queensland Parks and Wildlife Rangers and the site owner to establish a network of teams to be able to keep an eye on the ground. We're looking at offering them support in how to identify and detect fire ants in the field, and also looking at getting the community engaged in keeping an eye out and potentially doing some luring and trapping in the area.